Greetings and salutations all. Thank you for joining us for this regular scheduled board meeting on Monday, August 14, 2023. We're going to move right to item 1.1, the appointment of Dr. Thompson as the Treasurer Pro Temp. Be it resolved pursuant to Section 3313.23 of the Ohio Revised Code that Dr. Stephen Thompson is hereby appointed as the district's Treasurer Pro Temp to perform all of the duties and functions of the district's regular interim treasurer during the period of this meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Autry and seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Next, we move to item 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Autry, would you be so kind as to lead us? Next, we'll proceed to item 1.3, community and or school reflections. Does anyone have any school reflections or community reflections to share? Mr. Alexander.
Yes, I had the opportunity on the Sunday, the 6th of August, to attend the Rubber Ducks game, and that was in conjunction with Akron Public Schools Akron Public Schools Sports Hall of Fame, and they allowed the inductees or their designees to get out there before the game and throw the pitch, and so I wanted to just kind of give an update. We had one of the inductees, which was Coach Mike Manier, who's been inducted. He came out, and out of all of us, he was the only one who could throw a strike. So he threw a strike, which is nice. Then we had Jake Flossie, who was a current Elliott senior, who is the grandson of inductee Tim Flossie, who's a coach. Then we also had Evelyn Stokes, who is the youngest sister of Gus Johnson. Then we had a Sam Greathouse, who is the great-nephew of inductee Gene Michaels. Also inductee John Woodridge had a representative who was his brother David. And there were a couple North members who were there in support for Jeff J.J. Walker. There were a number of tickets sold, 71 tickets, and the tickets that were sold go to paying for the banquet that we have on October 21st. So I'm hoping that on October 21st that we get a lot of people to come and attend the event. It will be at House 330. And I want to just give the names of the inductees. We have coaches, as I mentioned, Tim Flossie and Mike Manier. We have student athletes, Jeff Gangloff, who's a swimmer from Firestone, Charles Gladman, who's from Garfield High School, was a football player, Gus Johnson from Central, who was basketball, Gene Michaels, who was East, was baseball, Katie Miller-Camo, who was from Firestone, who swim, Nate Thurman, who was from Central, who was basketball, Jeff Walker from North, who was track, and John Woodridge, who was from Central Howard, who's football. And we have a special contributor who is going to do, we're having LeBron James. So I think anyone who wants to come, this will be a good event to come. It'll be the second Hall of Fame that we have for Akron Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Are there other community and or school reflections? Dr. Molnar?
I have two. First, on July 29th, I went to the Asian Service and Actions International Community Festival. We had an Akron Public Schools table. So in addition to the free food and entertainment and community resources that were in the festival, we also had information about kindergarten registration and the backpack day that's coming up this week. And there were families there. We had information with the in different languages for all the families. But there were a lot of other organizations there too that was really great, and performances. So we had Chloe Lee from the Akron Chinese School did the embroidery dance, and we had We did not have. They had. We watched. I observed. I did nothing. It rained, and all of these performers were in all of these beautiful costumes. And even though it rained, the show went on. They swept off the stage. There was so much water, they swept off the stage and kept on with their performance. So there was a Hmong group that did the Blooming Flower Dance, and some of those dancers were from our North and STEM high schools. And actually, one of those dancers is also on our girls' champion flag football team that went to Washington, D.C., that hopefully we'll hear more from soon. But putting on a large event like that for the community, to help the community, can be an arduous task, but especially in the rain. But it ended with karaoke, and the whole group went up and sang, and it was so beautiful to see people just really enjoying themselves and each other and giving back to the community. And that kind of extended into the second event that I found out about when I was there this past weekend. August 12th was the 73rd annual commemoration day for members of our Karen community. And there, once again, were student and alumni speakers and performers. And there's the Karen wrist tying ceremony, which I learned because I had never been to a wrist tying ceremony before, but it is, I had to write it down, a reminder to all citizens of all nationalities of what we can live together in unity and strength in a multicultural society. And I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, and I enjoyed being there. And then it ended with a soccer tournament, and they sold bubble tea, so it was great.
Thank you, Dr. Marnar. Are there other community and/or school reflections? Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is more of an acknowledgement. It was brought to my attention that Schumacher Community Learning Center was designated as a National PTA School of Excellence. And so, that's right up my alley. For those of you who don't know, this national program is for improvement and recognition and celebrating partnerships between PTAs, families, and schools. And so it's a process that they have to enroll in. They fill out and do a survey to basically determine what the needs are of that individual building. They develop an action plan, and then they carry it out with the support of the national PTA. And so the designation is good for 2 years. Takes a lot of work to do something like that and a lot of focus. So I wanted to just make sure we acknowledge Schumacher CLC, Mr. Haynes and his PTA team over there for this great work. Those relationships are really, really important. Coming from a PTA background, they can fill in a lot of gaps at school buildings. So if you're out there and your school doesn't have a PTA or you're interested in getting one going, this is a great way to get it started. All it takes is 2 like minds. And so you can go to pta.org and find out the details about getting enrolled in that program. Also, since we last met, I had the opportunity to go check out football scrimmage and look at that beautiful field over there at Bucto CLC. So go Griffs.
Thanks, Ms. Autry. Are there other community and/or school reflections? Okay, Ms. Jackson. Sure.
The country, but yeah. So I just have, I guess, what Ms. Autry said. I just have an announcement. I was excited upon returning that I got to speak to Mr. Ryan. Is it Rugarian? See you here, Ryan? Yes. Say your last name so I can say it right. Ruyan, Mr. Ruyan, and we were talking about the college and careers, and I'm so excited about what's going on and what Ms. Edwards is doing at Bucto, and as well as Ms. Beecher. And I was excited to hear that we recently are entering into a partnership with the labor unions in that art, because I'm excited about students being able to get active and contribute back to the community through entrepreneurship or careers. And since you talked about partnership, I thought, hey, this is a perfect time for me to piggyback on what she's talking about, because our community partnerships are just as important as our parent-teacher association partnerships, because that's how we leverage ourselves and our city and also equip and empower our students. So when he was sharing with me about the partnership and that our students will be able to graduate school making over $20 an hour, participate in an apprenticeship program, and then eventually be making $33 an hour, I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about the work that's happening in our district and about community partners such as the labor unions coming alongside us to make sure that we can put our young people in a position, even if they don't go to college, where they can become contributing citizens. Because as I say, what comes out of the schools directly impact the outlook of our city, and right now that's looking very good. So I just want to say thank you to our community partners and how they support us, as well as our parents and our PTA organizations. Thank you.
Roger that. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there any other community and or school reflections? Okay, so I just have a couple comments. One, to Dr. Monroe's point, we have invited the flag football team to join us at the next board meeting to share with the public and with the board their journey and exploits. And so I know I, for one, am certainly looking to hear more, hearing more about that. And then secondly, and even more importantly, those of you who are here and watching on the live stream, you may notice that there's somebody sitting to my right that you haven't seen sitting to my right before. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Michael Robinson, our new superintendent. This is his first meeting in his new role with us. And so again, just want to thank you for being here, and want to thank you and welcome you. And that's a nice segue to our request to address the board section of tonight's meeting. So, first up to address the board, we have, well, actually, let me read the script here first. Request to address the board. Participants will not be permitted to speak on matters related to vendors, business matters, formal complaints, grievances, specific students or student records, personnel matters, and potential or pending legal matters. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. The board will not respond, but will assign through the superintendent the appropriate person for follow-up. First up, the first person up is John Arisi.
What's up, y'all? I'm John Arisi. I live at 152 Hunt Club Drive in Akron. I'm a proud '89 Firestone alum, and my 3 sons have all graduated from Firestone or STEM high schools. I've been a coach in APS athletics and a parent volunteer for a multitude of other APS events. And since its inception, I've sat on the I Promise School Executive Committee as a representative of the community. I've seen firsthand the role that IPS plays in students' and families' lives, and I've watched it save lives. It's far more than a school. And students are far more than data points and numbers, which I think is something that's been lost here. Let me step back. The I Promise School is a partnership between LeBron James Family Foundation and Akron Public Schools. The Family Resource Center at IPS, which was questioned at the last board meeting, I want you to know it's truly remarkable. 3 full-time staff members funded by LJFF that are dedicated to the IPS families. Always on call, nights, weekends, holidays, providing constant outreach proactively and as needs arise. They're listening to what families need and responding, providing life-altering supports every day. And it's not just there for students, it's also there for their parents, siblings, grandparents, the entire family is part of it. We Are Family isn't a slogan. It's a fact, and it's a way of life in those walls. The additional benefit of the Family Resource Center is essentially the mission of LeBron James Family Foundation. Short-term and long-term housing at the I Promise Village and I Promise Housing. Skills trainings, real jobs at House 330. Medical, dental, mental health wellness is on the way at I Promise Health Quarters. Tens of thousands of meals and school supplies for IPS and APS and a whole lot more. And for this life-changing effort and its transformational offerings, many of them delivered outside of school, they have somehow been labeled as creating inequity. On that note, the I Promise School has had only 1 full school year with meaningful, engaging leadership and in-person learning. And the growth results were staggeringly good. That was year 1. Year 2, COVID, no testing. Year 3, COVID, remote learning. Keep in mind these students show up already 1, 2, and 3 grade levels behind when they arrive. Years 4 and 5, 3 different principals. Test scores plummeted nationally, not just in Akron, and certainly not just at the I Promise School. Year 6, today, good news. Now a proven and exemplary principal leading the way at IPS. So that upswing is coming. But watching the board single out the IPS test results in a public forum while many other schools sit with similar numbers, it sure feels like you're rooting for those kids to fail.
Thank you, Mr. Heresy. That is your time. Thank you, Mr. Heresy.
I'd like to finish, please.
That is your time, Mr. Heresy.
I'm going to cut to the end.
That is your
Actions of this board are doing a disservice to the city of Akron and its students. Meanwhile, I'm proud to live in a community that is a resource like the I Promise School, full of people committed to living for others and doing everything possible to help students succeed. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. Thank you for the extra time.
Amanda Corder.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Corder, and I'm a third grade teacher at Firestone Park Elementary School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. While I'm aware that Firestone Park will or may be closing after the next school year, to my knowledge, we have not yet been made aware of any official plans of closing. So a week from today, the staff will be walking back through the doors for the new school year. With that new school year, the staff was looking forward to the window air conditioner units that were set to be installed over the summer. As of today, the AC units have not been installed, and to my knowledge, there are no longer plans to install these units, despite some upgrades to the electrical system and the electrical boxes in the building. Back in the spring, I happened to be in my room when someone from maintenance stopped by and asked me which window I think I would want the AC unit to be installed in. So again, to my knowledge, the plan was to install AC units, and with no formal communication from the district about closing the building to date, we all still were holding on to hope that the units would be installed over the summer. Now, obviously, having AC unit in each classroom would make everyone more comfortable. Because our building does not have central air, all the teachers have to open their windows to allow some fresh airflow into the classrooms, along with the one allotted box fan provided by the district. This does almost nothing to provide a comfortable learning environment for our scholars and staff. It is hard to learn and to teach and to focus on taking district and statewide tests when it is 90 degrees or even hotter on the third floor, and to talk above the hum of the fans and the noises from outside. Also, with the increasing need for technology in the classroom, the 20-plus student Chromebooks, teacher computers, and large Promethean boards create even more heat and discomfort. However, comfort is not my main concern this evening. Safety is my main concern. I am on the bottom floor of the building, and when my windows are open, they are this far from the ground and the grass below. Anybody could get in or out of these windows. Imagine when I leave my classroom for 5 minutes to walk my scholars to lunch, and these wide open windows are left unmonitored in my classroom while I am gone. Imagine the lawnmowers coming by the windows, and before you can close them, the mower kicks up dust, grass, pebbles that are now blown into the classroom, not to mention the loud distraction that I now have to try to speak over. We can't have open windows in the hallways to help with airflow because there's no supervision in the hallways at all times. Students are often asking for frequent water breaks or to fill up their water bottles, which means more unsupervised visits to the hallway to get water, which can lead to student misconduct. Imagine open windows with no guardrails or screens on the third floor of a building, and if the impulse comes across an elementary student to lean out and see what a commotion might be outside of their window. Last year, my colleague had a student who was so deathly afraid of any type of bug that when a bug inevitably flew into her classroom, that student had to take a break with me so she could deal with the bug, all the while our instructional time was disrupted. I would like to close with expressing my appreciation of the improvements to safety that were implemented last school year at our building. However, we were still promised AC units even after we learned that our building might be closing last spring. I completely understand and appreciate the business standpoint of not investing in a building that will most likely be closing, partly due to the issues that I've shared with you this evening. However, as of today, the plan is to still welcome students on August 24th. In one of the community meetings about the closing, we were told that the district needs to keep us warm, safe, and dry. Well, we are certainly warm, but I would argue that there is more you can do to keep us safe this school year, regardless of the status of our closing or not. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Corder. Next, we have Malcolm Costa. I'm sorry? You're not speaking? Okay. All right. Next, we have Pastor Harrison.
Good evening, Board. I trust I won't go over 3 minutes, but if I do, I'm going to say I waited 15 minutes for the meeting to start, so give me a little grace. Amen? Thank you. I want to talk about the comments that were made last board meeting about the I Promise School. I think that's a dangerous narrative to put out there that somehow a school that has been open 5 years would be based on the test scores. We would question the resources that were put into the school. Would it be a fair assessment to say that the children were not properly educated from kindergarten to 2nd grade? And then they went to 3rd grade, and I'm not sure how long it takes to recover a grade. So if I'm in 1st grade and I am not prepared to go to 2nd grade, and I go to 2nd grade, how long does it take me to come up to a reading level? As I do every August, I brought and passed out some pictures of my godson, Paris Wicks. Paris was killed in 2013. He was killed in 2013 by a 15-year-old Akron Public School student who could not read at all. In the court, he could not spell his name. He was tried as an adult, and he has 30 years in prison. On the first day of school, he shot Paris and another young man. And as Paris lay dead, school kids with book packs or backpacks were walking by the body. There was a time when we had to worry about our best friend moving to another school. Well, now kids have to worry about their best friend getting shot, getting killed. They have to come to school with so many different things. If we called out every partner that APS had and questioned the partnerships and the effectiveness of the partnerships, would we have partners? I think not. I think we would not have partners if we called out every partnership. But LeBron James Foundation has put so much into this community, we cannot quantify with test scores. Nor should we after 5 years, and especially with 3 years of COVID. I would ask that you would be careful with the narratives. It's dangerous. And I think LeBron James does so much more, and he means so much more. And we need more than 5 years. I close with college and career academies. Do we have a metric to measure their success? Would we call them out like we called LeBron James Family Foundation out? Let us be careful with our narratives. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Harrison. Next, we have, is it? Next, we have Mark Nicolino. Oh, he's right here on. Okay, you didn't mean to sign. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. All right. Oh, okay. Okay, that was the next one I was coming to. Okay, all right. Gotcha. Okay, all right. Ms. Jackson.
I would like to thank all of the community members that addressed the board on today, Mr. Erisy, Reverend Harris, and I'm sorry, the Firestone Park teacher, Ms. Quarter, because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, and so I'm grateful because we represent the community. And I just wanted to make the statement publicly because partnerships are important, and I believe from even talking to this board that we understand the importance of our community partnerships. And accountability, we do also understand is necessary for the entire body of our 20,000 plus students and the schools that they attend. In referencing, I promise, just because there was a lot of chatter about it, and so I felt the need to address it because I remember as a new board member when we attended the State of the Family or the Foundation before House 330 opened up. And it was a very enlightening experience to see how the foundation pours into the community, to the families, and it's really about complete wraparound services. And so the understanding for myself is that we're grateful for LeBron James and his foundation to use their name and his influence to bless the community that he came from. And as educators, we're in the business of educating as a school board. And so we have to be careful with those partnerships and the relationships that everyone does what is in their lane to do, and that we collectively come together at some point for the greater good. So I think isolation or to nitpick in any form is not the intent of anybody. It's surely not mine, and I know my colleagues and some that I speak to. So I definitely want to say, as was brought up, that there's no way that we can do anything in isolation as an educational entity, as a school board. We truly do need the community and the support that the community offers to better leverage relationship and the success of our learners, because we all are one, because we are Akron. And anything that happens in our school system will directly impact our city. And I know I keep saying that, but there's no way to get around it. So I want to say thank you. The concerns have been heard at Firestone Park, and we're your elected representatives. So what you share with us, I'm sure we have to reason about and try to address in some manner. So I just want to say thank you. And I felt it important because I've been absent for some time, to let you know that your concerns have been heard and that we are with you, that I am with you, and let's be better together.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Welcome back. Next, we'll move to recognitions, item 2.1. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Good evening. So I want to take the opportunity to recognize our Martha Holden Jennings Foundation Teacher Award for Excellence in Science Education. And I just want to say a few words, and I think that someone is going to be coming to speak on this. But Dana Starvaji is a product of Akron Public Schools, graduating from Firestone High School. Ms. Starvaji has shared that she was like some of our students who wondered if high school was for them. However, she had an epiphany as a young adult and decided that she wanted to make a change in the world, and she was going to take it head on. Her decision to be the change one wants to see in the world has resulted in Ms. Starvaji's passion as a teacher for the past 12 years, first as a middle school teacher and now as a high school teacher. In addition to receiving the 2023 Arthur S. Holden Teacher Award for Excellence in Science Education for the state of Ohio, Ms. Starvaji was the 2020 Teacher of the Year finalist for North High School. Dana has never wavered from her mission, and you will hear a little more about this outstanding educator from our district science coach, Ms. Jonna O'Neill. You can come.
Thank you. When we had the opportunity to select only one teacher who met the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation requirements to be nominated for the Arthur S. Holden Teacher Award for Excellence in Science Education. There were many teachers who came to mind, but one stood out. We are proud to recognize Ms. Dana Starvaggi, who is the recipient of the Arthur S. Holden Teacher Award for Excellence in Science Education for the state of Ohio. As an educator, Ms. Starvaggi exemplifies our APS vision of excellence through equity. She recognizes and believes in the uniqueness of all scholars. She was an early adopter of problem-based learning. She provides opportunities for all scholars through her intentionally designed deep learning projects such as Wetlands Program and Science Fair Club, by simultaneously creating partnerships with numerous organizations to expose her students to opportunities in the STEM field. Ms. Starvaggi is passionate about lifelong learning, and she shares her knowledge by conducting professional development for and alongside her colleagues while presenting at the local, regional, and national conferences. Her zeal, energy, and drive for her students and content is evident in the ways she fills gaps that may exist in experiences so that her scholars are able to have rich, hands-on, interdisciplinary learning opportunities. The Martha Holden Jennings Foundation has awarded Ms. Starvaggi $7,500 toward a project of her choice that will support and inspire her scholars. And we would like to recognize her and her work, her hard work and commitment to our scholars in the APS family.
Thank you. Please sit down. I don't do well on that. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. And I think it would border hubris if I talked about myself up here, because really I feel like I've been in the right place at the right time. Some of you have judged PBL projects for me. Some of you hired me at your school because you liked my ideas, even though I probably didn't have a fraction of the stuff to back them up that I should have. But Dr. Katrina Halassa is the reason that I get whatever I get. And I know she's not here to cut the mic, so I will take a moment to take advantage of that. You know, when we look at people that really go above and beyond, Dr. Halassa should be the face of this district. She works harder than anyone I've ever met, even when it comes to sacrificing her own self for it. And so she's always been an inspiration. When I had the honor of closing out Perkins in our last year and got to work with someone named Ms. Cheryl Franklin, one of the best educators we've had in our district. And she gave me a compliment at the time I most certainly didn't deserve. She said that she was grateful to walk in the wake of my greatness. And I really remember that because I've never received, I don't think, a better compliment. And I think with Dr. Halassa that's the case, that, you know, I'm just grateful that I can walk in the wake of her greatness as all she's done for this district. To get this award, I had to type a one-pager about what I've done, and that was the biggest challenge, was smushing things onto one page. But it's just that these people drop advantages or opportunities in front of us all the time, and you know, I try to take advantage of them. So thank you for judging PBLs and getting our PTAs running and all the things you guys have done. That when you're, you know, on the ground as a teacher, some stuff doesn't always trickle down. You know, and I guess I just challenge everybody to remember that the power we have, you know, as a teacher, when you go to your students' houses for dinner, like you're this rock star. And, you know, when we've had assistant superintendents or people come judge PBLs, I mean, they're beyond excited. You guys are rock stars. So there's a lot of teachers, you know, that share the halls with me at North and other schools doing awesome work. And our doors are always open, and we welcome you guys anytime to see some of the great work we're doing, because it's happening every day in every school in this district. So thank you guys for inviting me, and thank you.
Mark Nicolino, sorry. Thank you. I've only called the name 100 times. Is a 12-plus transition program intervention specialist at Buckle CLC. Mr. Nicolino is also part of the Summer Expanded Learning Program. His team teaches a gardening and horticulture club at Akron Cooperative, where they have classes 2 or 3 times a week throughout the summer break. This is their 4th year, and they have 20 students enrolled. They work with the students and families to provide them with skills to grow their own garden. The families get a share of the harvest each year for their participation. Mid-season, before the garden is ready to begin harvesting, Mr. Nicolino visits Northeast Ohio farms and gathers produce to share with the families on Family Day. Mr. Nicolino is here tonight with his team, and I would just like to say thank you to him for welcoming me to Akron and to the city of Akron and to Akron Public Schools upon my announcement. And I told him that I was going to definitely show up, and I was more than excited that I did. I was out there. I probably should have worn some different clothing, but it didn't matter. I was still out there with my suit on. So he will tell us more about this wonderful experience for our students. Let's please welcome him, his team, Mr. Mark Nicolino.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking you, Dr. Robinson, and all of you here at the board for providing this wonderful, wonderful opportunity for all of us in Akron Public Schools. This was opened up to all students across the district. And we have up on the screen pictures of us at the garden. And this year we renamed the garden Gilby's Garden. It is at Akron Cooperative Farms. Akron Cooperative Farms is directed by Doug Wirtz, who's in the back. He is the director of the entire farm. The farm is a community farm, which was, it had been Samus Park, which were the old baseball fields. And so Doug had this dream to make a beautiful community garden and convert sandlots to productive garden space. He came to Akron Public Schools and asked to partner with Akron Public Schools, and he was teamed up with me. Lucky me. So I said yes, and in that first year, I had a 20 by 20 foot plot of space using my own funds to get it started, and COVID hit. It was a desert, but I had 2 families involved, and I think they got to pick a few onions and maybe a squash or 2. We didn't have a great year. It was hot. It was hard getting kids there, getting families there, but we powered through. The following year, I thought, I've got to do something to change this. So with the support of our principal at the time, Kim Sabetta, we went over to the garden when we returned in person, and we built 4 16 by 3 foot garden beds and begin to transform our space. Doug allowed me to rent an additional 3 raised 30-inch high beds, which were wheelchair accessible, 4 by 8 beds, and another little bit of space. There are the 4 by 8 beds on the screen now. And we turned that space into a productive space and had 8 students, 8 scholars and their families involved in it that year. Then last year, I said, this is enough. And I had the opportunity to do expanded learning. And I brought on a team of teachers, Mr. Christopher Buttonshawn, Ms. Carrie Davis, and this year we've added Mr. Corey Dentler. So last year, we went from roughly 40 by 20 feet to 130 feet by 25 feet. And expanded the space. I got grants from Home Depot and First Serve to help build everything. Home Depot actually sent their staff out to build new beds. And this year, that still wasn't enough for me. So I went to First Serve and Home Depot again and Doug. We expanded again. This year we've added more beds. We are now up to 55 feet by 130 feet. Our goal was to get 24 families involved. We had 27 scholars sign up. We have 17 active scholars from the beginning. We have 20, roughly, who have had some involvement throughout the year, and it has been wonderful. Our garden is flourishing. I just have to look at my notes to make sure I'm not leaving anything out I wanted to mention. I think I got all that. So now I'd like to introduce to you one of our students. First, I'd like to mention the families. We have some of the parents here, Elena and Danica and her friend. But we have one student, Malia Drummond. All right.
Hello. I'm Malia, and I really enjoyed gardening club this summer. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. It was just an interest, it was just something that I wanted to try out, and I'll definitely be doing it again next year. Even on the days that I didn't think would be the best, like the rainy days, it was nice. We did a bunch of stuff, like we made kitchen plants, and we made lip balm on one of our rainy days, and it was super fun. And actually, I think you guys should make homemade lip balm. It's so smooth. It's so smooth, and it smells so good if you put some mint in it. And I learned a lot this summer too, like different things about plants that I didn't think I would ever know. Like, I thought potatoes just grew underground and that was all, but they come from the stem, which is really strange to me. And the onions, they come up out of the ground while they're growing. And when I first saw it, I thought I messed something up. And there's just so much that I learned this summer, and I really enjoyed it. And Mr. Nicolino, he taught me a bunch of recipes because he used to be a chef, and I really enjoyed that too.
Tell them about our snacks every day.
Oh, for snacks, after class, we have different vegetables and fruits, and sometimes Mr. Nicolino makes things from the stuff that we grow in the garden, and it's really nice. One time we had vegetable soup. It was so good. Or the roasted corn. It's so much better than it being boiled. I learned how to make, what was it called? Chip dip. And it was out of the parts from the onion that I didn't think we would eat, like the flour. At first I was kind of scared to eat it. But it was really nice this summer.
Tell them what you told me just a few minutes ago about.
After this, I know that I'll never be scared of presenting in front of my class again.
How many times have you had to present? Has she chosen to be our spokesperson?
Well, I gave tours to people who come to the garden, and I show them around. I tell them the things that we did this summer, and we did this one film it was this summer learning film, and
From the Wallace Foundation.
from the Wallace Foundation, and I showed him around the garden, and it was super fun. I'm not scared to talk to cameras anymore.
Before I go on, I want to say one thing before Dana leaves, actually. Dana is also a gardener and has a garden at North High, and she does wonderful, wonderful things, and she is a fabulous teacher, and I, too, am proud to walk in your shadow. So we had a, you can say with me or you can sit. Okay. We have a, like I said, quite a few students, and one of those students is right there, Gabby Harrison. She just flipped away, and she wrote a poem, and so this is how we're going to end our little presentation here. So this is a poem by Gabby Harrison, Where the Flowers Grow. In the garden, where the flowers grow, there's a man with a green thumb, don't you know? Mr. Nicolino, he's the one, the gardening genius, second to none. Oh, Mr. Nicolino, the garden's in bloom. With your magic touch, it's a sight to consume. Your love for the earth, it truly shows in every petal and every rose. From morning dew to setting sun, Mr. Nicolino, he's always on the run. Planting seeds and tending to the soil, his passion for gardening never boils. Oh, Mr. Nicolino, the garden's in bloom. With your magic touch, it's a sight to consume. Your love for the earth, it truly shows in every petal and every rose. With every plant he grows, he teaches us to love and care for the world around us and the beauty we all share. Oh, Mr. Nicolino, the garden's in bloom. With your magic touch, it's a sight to consume. Your love for the earth, it truly shows in every petal and every rose. Thank you, Mr. Nicolino, for all that you do. Your gardening genius is an inspiration, it's true. Thank you all for listening. Peace and grow strong from all of us at Gilby's Garden.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes, I'm sorry.
They said, don't forget to mention.
I was hoping you would leave it there, because I was.
Yeah. And it is here for all of you to share in. There are eggplants and tomatoes, green green beans. There's a variety of things in here. Please, 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 feel free to come visit the garden. You can get my email or call me. I would be happy to meet you there or one of the other teachers, and we'd love to show you around. It's beautiful, beautiful. The farm is beautiful.
Thank you. Yep, same here.
Dibs on the tomatoes.
I'll take the green beans.
Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, I just want to say, I drove by there a couple times on the highway, and I didn't know. It used to be where we used to play baseball, hot stove baseball. And when I rode by, I thought it was some professionals. I had no idea it was part of Akron Public Schools, but it looks really nice from the highway. And I thought somebody's growing some real vegetables. I thought maybe I can go over there and get some at a discount. So I know where to go to get me some vegetables now.
You can go get things at a discount on Wednesdays, 4 to 7. So we talked about community and involvement and people of different diversity and nationalities. There are a lot of diverse nationalities growing things there, and they have a farmer's market on Wednesdays from 4 until 7. Now, I have to tell you, I don't go. We went because we had an appointment there this past Wednesday, and I called the person and said, don't come, because it is so busy. So if you're gonna go early, get a parking spot. They have tons of stuff, and it's It looks like one of the best farmers markets in the city, honestly. It's amazing what they grow.
Thank you, thank you.
If you come visit our gardeners, we'll send you all the stuff.
We have tons of stuff.
Come in there.
We'll send it out, you don't have to pay for it.
Better discount.
Yep.
Roger that.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you. Dr. Molnar.
So I also did not know that some of our gardeners were students, but I have actually been to the farmers market on a few of the Wednesdays. We had an APS table there. We helped get some materials out to some of the families about kindergarten registration and things like that. But the farmers markets are, if you want the good stuff, you want to get there early because the best things go quickly. My son went, and he just went from table to table to table, and I said, if you want a watermelon, you're going to have to get it right now because by the end of the day, it's gone. But as far as wanting something for free, I did mention this at the last board meeting also, that the people that put on the farmers market, they also accept SNAP and the PEBT cards that the students in our district get, and they match the first $25. And so that's not quite free, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, good. Awesome.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Things like this get me excited. Thank you, young lady, for being courageous and letting yourself be stretched. Mr. Nicolino, I think it speaks a lot to you as an educator and as a person because we could see this is what, when I say teachers are the quarterback for everything, because if they don't run the play, so much is missed. So I'm thankful for you because what I saw was a great educator standing next to their student, encouraging and empowering their student just in this presentation. So I can imagine what that looks like. Interacting with you. So thank you. I'm happy to be in your shadow and to bear witness on today. But also, so when you were talking about the 16 by 3 feet, the garden beds that you invest in, and then what the students, when they participate in it, I couldn't help but to think, because you know my entrepreneurial mind and leveraging things, but you highlighted that there is a farmer's market from 4 to 7, and then you just spoke about that there's overage, and I'm grateful for free, and that we can be blessed with some produce. I'm just curious as to how or do you envision that this can be something that can be leveraged for our students that participate in tilling the land and growing things to where this could be an arm of our entrepreneurial ventures as a district, and we can have a student farmers market?
That's a big question. I think probably the simplest and quickest answer to it would be I could see our students supporting a table at the existing farmers market to sell the goods that we grow. The families, the reason we have so much extra is because families don't fully understand the two that are here get it. They are regular attendees of the garden. But families don't fully understand and or don't have transportation. That young lady, that young man, love to come to the garden, would come all the time, but they don't have the transportation to get there. One of the things I didn't mention is that we have a diverse population of students from special needs, and we have built this garden to accommodate people with special needs, people in wheelchairs. That's our current move. But we wanted to expand again. We made wider aisles and beds that would accommodate people in wheelchairs as we come up to that. Two students, general ed students like Leanne, who are fully engaged and invested, and that beautiful mix of that population. And thank God to both Deb Faulkner and the expanded learning department coming together for me this year and getting me the transportation that I needed to get both populations to that garden, because we were going to lose kids because they couldn't get there. But they came through and figured out a way to get the transportation for those kids. That is one of our biggest blockades to continued success with getting kids on board, and then the families. So the families can't get there to get this product that we have for them for free. I mean, they put their work in. And yes, she's afraid to speak for herself here. This is very big. She's whispering in my ear that, and remind them that we're really teaching the job skills as we go along.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, and it's not just job skills like tending the land. Malia is for example. She has gained speaking skills, Gabby, writing skills, all on their own. Everything that we do, we teach from the position that everything brings about inquiry. And so if we get the kids to wonder, then they create what they want to learn. And this beautiful space has shown that. We have kids interested in food, interested in eating healthier, trying new things. Kids who don't like vegetables, eating vegetables. We have a young man who, in his first 2 days, came in. Wouldn't do anything. Now he's engaged, he's involved, he loves to take stuff home. We've given him plants to take home because he's starting his own garden. And it's that interest in building. And I tried to find some of the articles and scientific studies that speak to how much gardening and gardening programs help in education and everything that you're talking about, that entrepreneurship, that freedom to learn, and that desire to stay in school. And it just didn't have enough time to pull it all together. But it's out there.
Yeah.
And
well, just even this type of learning, but we'll talk later because I want to be respectful of time. But I do want to follow up with you because it's direct. Even it's like a project-based learning that's ongoing, and it covers so many domains, and that's why this is exciting. But more than that, we're talking about in a time where sustainability practices are very important. And there's a saying, I think it may be Booker T, so I'm going to chop it up, so please do not fact check. I'm just going to paraphrase that we have to put as much honor in someone that tills the land as someone who may write a sonnet, right? And so we've gotten away from the understanding we need food to survive. And so to inform kids, young people, in such a way that they can grow from the land. And as Malia was saying, I didn't know that potatoes can grow like this. I didn't know that I could use the flower of an onion to make this dip. That is a wealth of knowledge that these children are gaining from farming. This is why my question went into, and we'll talk later, about how can we scale this up. You said transportation is a problem. And I know we have great community partners and people who will listen to this who are about farming and sustainability. And we know that even our federal government provides grants and things for that, that if that's a problem, that may be a need that we can meet. But when they see this also as a business, because farming is respectable and is very profitable. And so we'll talk later because I don't want my president to cut my mic.
I have so much more to say too, but thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
I've got a million and one things, so if you all, any of you have questions for me or want to meet and talk over things over, I am open to that. Email you.
I am not quite as respectful on time as Ms. Jackson is, but I do want to elaborate on what she said and how important this is and how also just how beautiful it is, and the opportunity for the students. We talked about the opportunity for speaking and presenting and selling, but there's also something to be said about if they are at the farmer's market and they're going to be selling their goods, the pride involved with, I grew this food and now I'm giving it to you to nourish your body, to nourish your soul, and that sense of community, and especially in that location where there are so many cultures and there are foods there that I had to have explained to me. There's people there that sell things I had never seen before, and I think the dinner table can be a place where people can learn about each other. And I know that you mentioned about the cooking demonstrations. They have cooking demonstrations there too, and there's just so much community love that can be shared there. So I really hope this, if I can be involved too, please. Yes.
Because I envision the student market being in North's parking lot and then giving a philanthropic thrust where 10% of the sales maybe can go into something that, like investing into North in certain projects, mini projects or things that may go towards like something matching. I got a lot of stuff going on in my head, so looking at it.
And of course, there's always a pleasant lesson of teaching students about paying taxes on your income. So, all right.
Part of their aid.
So, right.
Start trusting everything.
Roger that, roger that. Thank you for all the comments, and thank you for the lovely presentation. Next, we're going to move to communications, item 3.1, the PAR and PAR Plus review program presentation.
The PAR program, the Peer Assistance and Review Program, is designed to offer every first-year teacher or new-to-district teacher, intern, the support, advice, and guidance necessary to make their first-year experience in Akron Public Schools as successful as possible. PAR aims to provide an opportunity for superior professional growth to achieve excellence in teaching, to support scholars by assigning experienced consulting teachers to individual interns to provide the necessary guidance and support during their first year in the profession or district. Consulting teachers and interns collaborate to improve instructional practices by mutually selecting goals based on the Ohio State Standards for Teaching Profession as part of the evaluation and reflection process. Tonight, Kathleen Durkin, leading consulting teacher, will be presenting on the Peer Assistance Review Program. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd also like to welcome my colleague, Nicole Frohnapple. We would like to welcome Dr. Robinson to Akron Public Schools and thank the board for this opportunity to present about our program, which we hold very close to our heart. To help you understand the impact of the PAR program, we would like to share a visualization about what new teachers face from OSU physicist Kenneth Wilson. Imagine you aspire to be a mountaineer. You have a pair of new boots, a tent, a backpack, and endless enthusiasm. But you have never so much as climbed above the tree line. There are two ways to reach the top of the mountain. One, you can take a practice run with someone with lots of experience and the ability to share it. Or you could be dropped off at the bottom of the mountain and told, get to the top or quit. If you don't make it, your enthusiasm disappears and you avoid similar challenges in the future. Too often, beginning teachers find themselves alone at the bottom of the mountain. New teachers describe their experience on the job as climbing a cloud-covered mountain. You can't see very far ahead and you don't know the height of the mountain. Other new teachers describe their first year as a journey without a map. But here in Akron Public Schools, we have a team of seasoned, dedicated teachers who help our new teachers navigate their first year. PAR is the Peer Assistance and Review Program is designed to offer every first-year teacher in Akron the support, advice, and guidance necessary to make their first year's experience as successful as possible. Who participates in the PAR program? All full-time teachers new to Akron Public Schools, teachers who return to Akron Public Schools after being gone for 5 or more years, and any part-time employees such as our valued tutors who become full-time teachers. The support for first-year teachers is conducted by consulting teachers who are assigned by expertise and provide intensive support and guidance to new teachers within their classroom, their school building, and the district. A consulting teacher's role includes 3 main components. First, we're their colleague. We're teachers helping teachers. We also serve as their mentor and their evaluator. As their mentor, we help to improve their classroom management, lesson planning, and instructional practices. We help them try to understand all their professional responsibilities. And we look for areas for professional growth. We offer a lot of emotional support and encouragement. And we serve as their resident educator mentor. As their evaluator, we conduct their evaluations, their walkthrough observations, formal observations, which include a pre-conference, their 30-minute observation, and a post-conference. We provide written feedback during conferences following each observation. That's side-by-side support. This is an example of the cycle that an intern gets to work through with their PAR and consulting teacher. We start with trying to build that relationship. We're very excited. Next week, we're going to start to meet our interns, so we will begin building a relationship with all of them, and we will look for opportunities for them to invite us into their classroom to do observations. Then we will sit with them after the observation and discuss their growth opportunities and things that they do well and the things that maybe they could work on. We come to do that together. We then give them a week or two and say, okay, we'll come back. Why don't you show us what you've been able to work out, the things we discussed. We offer them two full semesters of support with guidance almost every week. So you would go through several cycles of this for each semester. Consulting teachers also report to the Intern Board of Review. The Intern Board of Review, also known as IBOR, consists of 5 Akron Education Association members and 4 Akron Public Schools administrators. It is a joint chaired program hosted and chaired by the Akron Education president and the assistant superintendent. The board meets twice a year to review each intern's progress and vote on continued employment. You can see by this chart that we have onboarded through this program, and my predecessor teams, they've onboarded a lot of teachers over the last 10 years. There are some classes of hiring that are very high, and over the course of the last 10 years, we've onboarded approximately 1,200 new teachers in the district. This is an example of last year's class. At the top, you can see 14 consulting teachers supporting the new teachers, which are all in blue. And yes, we did count 126 new teachers. With our collective caseload, our team and their teachers helped support 9,920 scholars last year. So happy anniversary to the PAR program and 10 successful years in Akron Public Schools. At the end of each year, we send our interns a survey. We ask for their feedback, the things they appreciate, things they think we could do better. And we've included a few quotes here at the end of this section so that you can see what our interns are thinking about. My first intern example is my consulting teacher was extremely helpful. She was kind, always available, respectful, and professional. She gave constructive criticism and advice that helped improve my instruction and understanding of the APS culture. Another said, I thought the PAR program was fantastic, and I think more school districts should offer this to their first-year teachers. It was beneficial to me, even with 15 years of experience teaching. One suggestion for the PAR program would be to keep the same consulting teacher for at least 2 years to allow for a meaningful growth, reflection, and continuity. Which brings us to the next chapter, extending the PAR program. We have received permission from administration last spring to extend the PAR program into something called PAR Plus. My colleague Nicole Frontapple will share.
Thank you, Kathleen. Right. I'm very excited to share with you about this addition to the PAR program. We will be extending the PAR Plus program to about 20% of our interns from last year. But first, before I talk to you about the PAR Plus program, we need to understand how and why this came about. And we know that we need to do a better job retaining the talent in which we invest. There is a crisis in teacher retention. Nationally, 37% of our teachers are ready to retire. And of our new teachers, 11% leave the profession after their first year. Almost half leave within their first 5 years. We also know that mentoring can not only retain good teachers, but it can help improve their skills. There are other professions that help do this. They use a mentored path to success. Doctors and licensed educators do something like this. Doctors have an internship of 1 year, and then they have residency of 3 to 6 years. In teaching, we have student teaching that's about 5 months. In Akron, we are fortunate enough to have the PAR program, and it's 1 year. But now we have extended this program to a second year for, as we talked about 20% of our teachers will have this added support. So how did we decide on this 20%, and who are these people going to be? Well, at the end of every year, as Kathleen talked about, we do this survey, and inevitably our interns reach out to us through email, text, phone calls. The next year, they have lots of questions and lots of concerns, and they still want our support. But we noticed some trends, and we started to put together some areas where we noticed people would need some extra support. And we discovered that the biggest areas of support would be any PAR intern with a teaching degree who was a little slower to develop. They were satisfactory in their teaching, but just needed extra time. This could also be someone who is a resident educator who is in their RESA year. This means that they're doing their summative assessment, and having the continuity of mentorship would be very helpful for them during that rigorous assessment process. We also know that oftentimes, because they're low in seniority, they run the risk of switching grade levels at the end of the year, being bumped out of their building, or possibly switching subjects. And that's a very difficult process to go through without a mentor. We also have people who are on alternative license. They are not in the RE program. They do not have a mentor. So having a second year with a mentor would be helpful to them. And then we have our career tech educators. So these are people who come from the outside professions, like carpenters, electricians, just all over professions, and they are not in the RE program. So they are ready to take that deeper dive into pedagogy because they do not have the training and education, but they're ready for it. So this slide shows you the difference between PAR, which we had in existence, and now this PAR Plus program, the second year for about 20% of our teachers. We're going to be able to spend more time on mentoring, and we will no longer be their evaluator. So we will still do observations, but they will be informal, and we will still use those observations as a way to help set goals and look at those goals. We will use some measures to look at the success of the program. We'll have a collaborative log. We'll look at the principal's OTES evaluation to see if they've made growth from the previous year. Of course, we'll look at student growth measures. And ultimately, we want to see teacher satisfaction because we know that teacher satisfaction is one of those measures that's going to lead to teacher retention because the impact, teacher retention is so important to the impact on teacher retention. The impact of teacher non-retention on student achievement is significant. Losing a teacher during the year represents a loss of between 32 and 72 instructional days, which equates to 1/6 to 1/2 of the school year. To cope, schools often rely on alternatively qualified teachers to fill unexpected vacancies, increase class size, or cut offerings. We know that this PAR program and now the PAR Plus program can help to mitigate the consequences of teacher loss and replacement listed here. And we are so excited. I hope you've heard the passion in our voices. We are so excited to meet our new interns this week and next week. We're going to be reaching out to them. And it's just this great time for us. So we are so thankful for your time. We're excited that we're expanding the PAR program, and we're passionate about the work that we do with our interns. We know that it helps to keep good teachers and talent in our district. So we would like to answer any questions that you have for us.
Are there any questions from the board? Okay, Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, I just want to comment and say, I met these two ladies here a couple years ago. I was on vacation in Portland, Oregon, and they were at a conference. And I got a chance to observe them do the work that they're doing and talk about it, meeting in the evenings, talking about what they can do, how can they bring it back to help our teachers, what can we do to make it better. And so I am a person who really believes strongly in mentoring, and I think when you have someone, no matter what profession they're in, if they have a mentor, they are can definitely do better and be a better person at the craft. So I like the idea of what you guys are bringing to us today. I think it will benefit our district, and I'm hoping that we will move forward with this as you guys would like, so we can continue not just to create and grow our own teachers, but to retain them here in Akron Public Schools so our students can gain the best knowledge they can from individuals like all of you. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from board members? Ms. Jackson?
Everything that Bruce said, and additionally, this is a wonderful program. Nationally needed consistently in all districts, right? The mentoring. And my only comment is I like how you show the doctor versus the teacher. And I always say that, teachers have the same responsibility as doctors with the Hippocratic oath to first do no harm, because teachers impact eternity, because we touch every profession, right? And so I say that to say the time, though, it's my hope that you guys will continue to do the wonderful work you do, and that this program can be something that continues to expand. Because we show student teaching is 5 months. It doesn't give the real glimpse. We know that. We do that to pass, right? But when you did that comparison, that for me as an educator, that was very impactful, because I said, no, it's more time. So I'm glad that you all were innovative enough and that you're passionate about the work to look for a PAR Plus. But then I look at PAR Plus Plus for the retention, because education always changes, pivot. COVID happened, right? Then we got classroom managers, we got a different type of kid that's coming in as kindergartners because they were remote, right? So now this third grade class. So all those things happen. So the continuation of these type of models are so important. And like I said, I'll be following up with you later anyway. So I thank Shai for putting that together, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there other questions? Dr. Molnar.
I was going to say, for the last two presentations, you can tell the difference between a good idea and a great idea, because a good idea comes and we go, that's a good idea. A great idea comes and we say, let's expand that. But I think this is another really great idea. I remember when I was a first-year teacher in another district and another time trying to do my praxis, and I wish there was something like this that I could have had to support me more. So I'm excited to see this great idea also expand.
Thank you, Dr. Molnar. Are there other questions? Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And so I was able to visit you guys. Are you based over at Robinson?
We were there for 2 years, and now we are at Garfield in a lovely room that we can all be together.
Yes.
There's 12 of us, and we have a collaborative workspace in there. We're kind of around the perimeter of the room, and we come together because they said, we should split you up. We have to be together because we're always feeding off of each other and asking questions and really making each other accountable for, like, how can we do this? How can we help you? And I might say to Nicole, I have this concern. Why don't we talk about a strategy I might take for my intern? Because we are all better.
Thank you. So we have this in nursing as well, so I know it's really beneficial. It's helped us retain nurses. My question, do the mentors, is this their sole responsibility, or do they do any classroom work at all?
This is our full-time job, and so we typically see our interns every week. We might just stop in to say hello. If you kind of get that feeling that your intern is struggling, you're going out more often. You might sit in the back of the room. You might go after school and say, let's talk through what you can do. We're really trying to help them stay engaged and know that they are not alone. This is one of the most stressful years of their entire professional career. And that is why this whole retention component has come to light in our team. We just feel like some folks the pressure mounts. There's so much to do. So we're trying to help them triage.
So we're going to ask you to speak in the microphone because the folks at home can't hear us. Sorry.
I wouldn't want my friends at home to miss this.
Right. This is good information.
So I'll go back. Ms. Autry asked, is this our only job? And it is, because we have to make time for them. If they're, calling us, sometimes they're calling you on your way into school and you detour. You're going right to their room. Sometimes they need you to come out and offer some suggestions. They might say, can you just come watch this 5th period class because it's not going well? And so we'll go. And we will take with us, later in the day, maybe the next day, here's some suggestions. Here's some things you can think about. And so we are really sort of on call to be available to them. And every week it's side-by-side support. It's checking in. It's, how are you doing? What can we do to support you? What do you need? Sometimes it's like really sitting down. Let's build a lesson that I think your students can receive. Next week, you can write the lesson plan. But this week, let's do it together. That's what our goal is, to make them really more self-reliant. But we need to help them. The first semester is very hands-on, very side-by-side oriented. And the second semester, if we feel like they're ready, we start to loosen up and let them take on, more of the responsibility. And what you're probably hearing is our 20% that we've kept. They just needed a little bit more time. It doesn't mean they're not a good teacher. It doesn't mean they're not passionate about their work. What it means is they need some help, and that's what we're giving them.
Fantastic. Are there additional questions? Ms. Jackson.
I guess my question is for you all, because I understand, when you're in the classroom and you're observing and helping a teacher, that sometimes it can be classroom management for lack of experience, or even just the assessment that they're picking for that specific group of learners. But I'm just curious, and what I want to ask you all, and we don't have to address this now, how can we as a board also support for any other things where you may recognize that supports are needed? And what I'm saying with that is, it's one thing from pedagogy standpoint, and it's another thing from systems and school culture. And I just wonder, is there any type of form or platform to where you can put those concerns administratively? Do you already have that in place to where if it's building concerns that you feel, not that the teacher's not quality and able, but if it was other type of supports, it would help in leveraging the management of the class and some behaviors?
Oh, yes. As consulting teachers, we work with their instructional coaches. We will engage their principal. We always have good support from our in-building people.
Okay, great.
We've received support here from our administrative. I go to a meeting every month with Dr. Kaver and Ms. Shipe, and we discuss concerns that we have, and they've been very instrumental in streamlining what we need to have from our new teachers. We've reduced the amount of professional development that they need to attend. We're trying to make sure that they are not inundated with so much training. And all the training is important and good, but it all has to come at a time when they are able to receive it. And Dr. Kaver and Pat Shipe have been very good about managing what is being put on a new teacher's plate.
Okay, excellent. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you, Ms.
Ms.
Shipe
Jackson.
and Dr. Cavers. Appreciate you.
Are there additional questions? Ms. Autry.
So I know you guys give us recommendations as well as far as who we should hire moving forward. Is that accurate?
It is.
So my question is, for those, when you look back at those that you didn't recommend for employment, do you see a theme, or has it just been varied reasons why you wouldn't recommend employment?
I think it's varied reasons. I do feel like one of our things that we do understand is if an intern isn't able to learn or willing to learn about how to teach our children in Akron Public Schools. You know, we really try to get them to turn the corner, really understand that every child arrives with a different set of needs and that we need to address them individually. And if we can teach that, but you've got to really step on and embrace it. That's correct. There are other people that we couldn't get them to teach what was assigned, even though we continued to reinforce, you know, this is important, you need to teach this. If you don't deliver this instruction, you're putting these children at a deficit for the foreseeable future, because we're always trying to play catch up. But the reasons are very specific, they are individualized. It is, we do make a recommendation for non-renewal very sparingly. Most people are able to come around. Some people make some bad decisions that are kind of out of our hands, but most of the time, everybody can come around. Something to add?
I think you summed it up nicely. I think most people with the support are able to turn the corner, you know, model.
Yeah. In the last 5 years, I think we have only recommended non-renewal for 6 to 8 teachers, and we have had over 500 teachers. So it's very small. It's used very sparingly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Are there other questions? Okay, I have several, if I may. The first question, so first off, thank you for the presentation. This was actually my second time seeing it. I had a chance to go to one of your meetings. So Ms. Shipe, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad that you had the medical piece in there. You could also add the law piece in there too, because nobody comes out of law school and knowing how to practice law, right? You're a junior associate, you know, and they assign you partners and senior associates to basically hold your hand for your first couple years out. But my first question though was, can you talk a little bit about what the caseload is typically for a teacher in this program? Again, you mentioned how many teachers are going through it, but how many consulting teachers do you have, and what's the typical caseload, and how long is someone in a consulting teacher role? So we have contract language that says we can have 12 to 15 interns on our caseload. If we get close, you know, we're one over, that's okay. We're just trying to navigate. The first year we were there, the hiring class exploded because we were launching the College and Career Academy. And so we had to do some quick adjustment. And it took us almost 3 years to get the caseload numbers correct because we were trying to service everybody. And the fine line about that is there's a fine line between compliance and evaluation and mentoring. And as soon as we made that switch to mentoring, things improved because really what they need is mentoring. Mm-hmm. You know, we can teach them how to, you know, improve on their OTES rubric, but really we need them to embrace teaching our children, embrace their content, and deliver solid lessons. So a consulting teacher could be in the program for a minimum of 3 years. They may ask for a 4th year in which they receive permission by the assistant superintendent and the AEA president, and they can ask for a 5th year, same circumstances. We keep, sometimes Dr. Kaver and Pat Shipe will select someone to keep because we have a special, you know, like we might have a lot of intervention specialists coming up. So we need to make sure that an intervention specialist has a mentor that is an intervention specialist. That is a very unique position. We need to make sure they get those specific legal components that have to do with IEPs. So I feel like I've maybe checked all this. No, you did. You answered my question. The next one I had, though, was, so to Ms. Jackson's point, you know, you mentioned that there are 20% of the first-year program participants who end up who are going to be in year 2. But I don't think what you're saying, though, is that the other 80% need nothing.
Correct.
Right. So I guess the question I have is, why not have everybody do 2 years as opposed to just 20%? Why not make it why is it not a mandatory 2-year program?
I feel like that's something we're exploring as an opportunity through this piloted version that we're going to try this year. And then I think that's a great thing for us to discuss as a group later. We need to see the benefits of it. I feel like 80% always needs something, and I feel like we had to let them move on because they were satisfactory. The program promises to deliver a satisfactory teacher, and that maybe sounds not great.
It sounds a little depressing. I don't want a satisfactory doctor.
But
I want a good doctor.
right, but
Or a great
you and I
doctor.
both know it takes a longer time to develop those skills, and we need to sort of really read that intern and make sure that we feel like they're up for the challenge for the growth. And that's why the second year can really help swing, a couple people that just needed that extra, 6 weeks maybe, who knows? But they just need someone to talk to and continue their growth process.
Yeah, I just think about it. Again, I'm kind of channeling Miss Jackson a bit here. But we think about what physicians do. 3 to 6 year residencies, right? And then many of them go do fellowships afterwards as well, right? In various specialty areas. And I just keep thinking about our kids, and again, I know that there's a financial component to all this, right? You have to fund a program like this.
I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah, right. You have to have more consultant teachers if you're going to have more years and things like that. So I know it's not simple, not as easy as saying, well, why not have 2 or 3 years?
Right.
But I think it's a serious conversation we ought to have sooner rather than later because, again, as you talk to a lot of teachers, they'll tell you that it's 4 or 5 years sometimes before they finally feel like they have their legs under them, their sea legs, if you will,
Yes.
right? And so, and maybe that time period gets cut even by a year or two if they know that, hey, I'm going to go to Akron and I'm going to have a 3-year educational residency, right? So as opposed to a year or 2 years, right? So I think it's something that we should talk about. However, the data has to support it though too, right? Yes. And so that leads me to really my last couple questions. You cited the national data that approximately 11% leave after their first year. I'd be interested to hear what it is in Akron Public Schools. And then part 2 of that question is you mentioned that nationally, 50% of teachers leave by the end of their 5th year. So you mentioned that this is our 10-year anniversary. We've onboarded over 1,200 teachers. How many are still with us?
We will need to get those data points from our HR department.
Roger that.
I don't
Okay.
have all of those.
Okay.
I do, we sort of track our own, we get a sprinkling of people that maybe decide this isn't the job for them.
Yep.
And I'm glad they figured it out now as opposed to 30 years from now,
Yep.
because that's
Yep.
not good for kids.
Well,
And-
listen, that's a positive too,
It
right?
is.
I mean, so I'm not counting it as a negative if we have some attrition, right? Because again, if this is not for you, this is not for you, and we wish you good luck and Godspeed, right?
Right.
And that happens in the professions of medicine and law as well, right? People figure out after during a first year residency, first year of a law internship that this is not for me, so I'll go do something else. But I know that as we think about how we justify and rationalize expanding a program like this to 2 years or 3 years, and some of the data that would be necessary to make those kinds of decisions is thinking through, well, how does this impacting our attrition, right? So, for example, if half leave by year 5, and we're at 25% after year 5, well, you can look at the differential of staffing and turnover and what it costs per year and training, and there's a whole number of metrics that get you to relevant KPIs. But I'm excited. I mean, this is one of those things where, in theory, I think we all believe this is something that is that is value added. I just think it's as you lean into being market driving as opposed to market driven. These kinds of programs, there's publishable data here too, right? And Akron can kind of be the leader. Because I don't know that there's a district in the country that offers 2 or 3 years. So we might be the first, and so why not seize that market advantage and make sure that we're sharing that as well. So, but I thank you for the presentation and your time. And if there are no further questions, are there any further questions? Okay.
Thank you very much for
kindly.
the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. next we are moving to we have our human resources presentation.
Good evening. So I know we had asked for some additional information with regards to our school resource officers and police liaison officers that are working in our schools. And so we've had a little bit of time working with our new superintendent, Dr. Robinson, to start looking at some recommendations that we're moving forward with. But wanted to share with you a little information at this time. What with regards to our school resource officers, or SROs as they're often referred to as, they're actually employed by the City of Akron, Akron Police Department, and then they're assigned to work within the Akron secondary schools. And so they're actually through a contract that we have with the City of Akron for that assignment, but actually employment is with the City of Akron. These are officers that have had desire to work in the schools with our scholars, and then been recommended by the Akron Police Department to work with us, with our students. Then we are able to select then through that contract which officers then would be working with in our schools, and then also provide an SRO training. By law, actually, all of our officers that would be working in the schools are required to have this one-time training, and what we actually require is that there would be an annual training, like a refresher training that they have if they continue working with us in those positions. The other position of officers we have working with us are police liaison officers. And these are current officers from either the Akron Police Department or Summit County Sheriff's Department, or they may even be retired peace officers with an active, valid peace officer commission. They work with us on an as-needed basis. Primarily, they provide for security for different athletic events or school events. And they may also work as needed to provide mobile patrol with the schools and to fill in if we have an SRO that might be unavailable. They are actually employed by Akron Public Schools in this as-needed basis and scheduled as needed for those assignments then as well. And then annually, we would need to reappoint those individuals that we're asking to come back and work with us for the following year. As I mentioned, we're working with Dr. Robinson with regards to recommended changes with this. What we're looking at with regards to the police liaison officers specifically even are these individuals are typically recommended by their respective departments to work with Akron Public Schools. And we would be having them apply and screened by Human Resources. Those selected candidates then are interviewed by Human Resources and our Director of Safety and Security. And the candidates who move on beyond that, then we complete, as all employees that work with the schools are required to have a BCI and I background check and a references completed. And once they would complete that process then as well, then that's when we would be moving forward with a hiring recommendation submitted to our board for approval to work within our schools. Okay? Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Wamis. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, next we'll move to approval of the previous meeting minutes, item 4. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the 7/24 and 7/31 board meetings?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next is our personnel recommendations, items 5 through 16. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Hall. I wish to recommend the approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16. But before I complete that, I'd like to recognize in number 16.1 the loss of one of our employees, and he was one of our child nutrition employees. Jesse Jones, affectionately known as JJ, will be greatly missed by the students and her co-workers at Portage Path. Ms. Jones worked for Akron Public Schools for the past 9 years and was dedicated to the students. She worked through the pain and to bring herself to work each and every day, accomplishing years of perfect attendance. When surgeries forced her to take time off, the students continually asked about her return, and she always intended to come back for the kids. Her co-workers will greatly miss Miss Jessie and her motherly advice.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Is there a motion to approve the personnel recommendations in items 5 through 16?
I move to approve those.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Comment, Mr. Alexander.
There's I want to recognize one person who, I know we do something with this as far as those who are retiring, but Ms. Terry Porter, who was in special education, is retiring after 30 years of service here. She's done a great job, done a lot of work for us and helped a lot of our families here at Akron Public Schools during her time, so I want to make sure we recognize her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Are there any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Mrs. McKittrick.
No on 6.2, yes on the balance.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Abstain from 7.1, yes on the rest.
Got you. Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with the exception of 6.2 and 7.1.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, we'll move to the approval of resolutions and motions in the consent agenda. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. President Hall, I wish to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 21. They are in proper format, and I move for their approval.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, next we move to business affairs recommendations. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Hall. I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in Category 23.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Autry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Mr. Alexander.
Yes, abstain from 23.2.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, we move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Project RISE, which is an art program. This summer, Project RISE implemented the 3rd annual art program at Helen Arnold, CLC. The program was for students involved in the Project RISE program, the McKinney-Vento program for the district. The beautiful artwork you see as you came inside was all completed by our students, by our scholars who took part in the art program. Ann Lackney, the art teacher at Helen Arnold, planned and implemented all of the curriculum and lessons. She planned beautiful mixed media projects and lessons that were engaging for all ages. Charlotte Bazilli, a longtime Project Rise staff member, assisted Ann with implementing the lessons. Charlotte has been a loyal staff member and tutor since 1991. Amanda Smith, Project Rise Special Programs Assistant, was invaluable with helping with coordinating the attendance and transportation with the program. Rachel Brees oversees the programming department of Project Rise and also helped coordinate the program and staff. All 4 of our Project Rise staff members have been involved with the art program since its inception in 2021.
We don't typically allow folks to address in this proceeding, but we'd be happy to let you at the next board meeting if you'd like to come address the board. Are you here specifically for that item, ma'am?
She's a part of it. She's what? She's part of it.
You know what? Please. We'll break protocol, please. Ma'am, if you step to the microphone, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Project Rise program is helping Akron Public School students and parents' lives who are homeless and poverty-stricken, at-risk situations to live successfully and to keep them in our schools. I'm a teacher for 55 years, and my mission in my life is to continue helping these students at homeless shelters and communities with Akron Public Schools. Project Rise started in 1980s and with the McKinley-Vento Homeless federally funded state-operated grant. Dr. Brown initiated this grant. Arts Can Teach program is part of the PAC program grant with Project Rise, which is existing for 3 years. Enjoy the Project Rise art exhibit outside the hallway there, and I want to thank you for supporting Project Rise. You are the sunrise and sunshine to the homeless. You saved thousands of lives of students and families within the Akron Public School District.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President, just as a point of order and clarification, protocol is still established. It has not been broken because she's here as a representative, just like the PAR people present everyone, just so for the record, people know that you haven't broken protocol.
Thank you for that. Okay. Appreciate that, because I don't like to break protocol. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. That's right. That's right.
Because you're in order, because you represent the organization.
Yes.
Not being misunderstood that, so you should have spoken. Thank you.
Okay.
Industry credentials presentation by Ms. Marcy Ebright, who is Director of College and Career Academies, will be presenting on the industry recognized credentials and why they are important. Ms. Ebright.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. I actually have with me Nate Rurian that you heard earlier. And he is going to share with you the industry recognized credentials, because this is the world he lives in daily, and has prepared a presentation to update you on item, I think it's 23.13 that was on your agenda tonight. And at the end, I'm going to come back with a special announcement about 23.14. Stay tuned for that. Mr. Rurian.
Good evening. My name is Nathan. I'm the coordinator of Career Tech for Akron Public Schools. It's with great pleasure that I announce that the graduating class of 2023 earned 2,239 industry credentials. That's an amazing accomplishment and a testament to the hard work of our teachers and students. So why is that important? Well, industry credentials authenticate knowledge and skills. They attest to the fact that you have a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter being assessed. It provides a competitive advantage when seeking employment by setting you apart from the competition. It also counts towards a graduation pathway. When students earn 12 points in the same career field, it checks one of the boxes for demonstrating competency. It also impacts both district and school level report cards by impacting the college, career, workforce, military readiness component, as well as the achievement report card metrics. So what is Rise Up? It's the National Retail Foundation's training and credentialing program. It consists of 4 certifications: warehouse inventory and logistics, retail industry fundamentals, customer service and sales, and business of retail. We support Rise Up because it's specifically designed for high school age students. It's a fantastic opportunity and manageable credential for all kids. We also support a large amount of credentials specifically designed for adults in post-secondary education, such as physical therapy assistant, medical assistant, Adobe certified professional, American Welding Society, and many, many more like EKG. All in all, we support probably 100 industry credentials. It's also Rise Up is also industry recognized. It was built in collaboration with over 20 major retail chains, including Home Depot, Lowe's, BJ's, and over 110 universities. It also builds confidence. These credentials provide a great opportunity for young scholars to have success in obtaining meaningful certifications while also supporting their ability to graduate high school. We administer Rise Up in 3 different instances. We have a new 9th grade elective where students are going to earn the warehouse inventory and logistics and retail industry fundamental certifications. And we also support Rise Up in our business, hospitality, and culinary pathways in grades 10 through 12. We focus on customer service and sales and business of retail in those pathways. And then we have a senior-only industry credential course, which is specifically designed to help students graduate high school through the attainment of industry credentials. And that 12-point plan is retail industry fundamentals and customer service and sales. So the number one drawback of industry credentials is that they are not free. There is a direct correlation between credential attainment and expenditures. The more credentials that students earn, the more resources that are required to support it. ODE does reimburse school districts for successfully earned credentials. They do cover the cost of the exam, however, not the curriculum. We typically utilize resources to purchase curriculum and testing vouchers. A voucher is a unique code assigned to each student that allows them access to both the curriculum and the assessment. We purchase vouchers as needed. So this means that for our students in 9th grade, we will purchase the appropriate amount of vouchers for that enrollment. That enrollment does fluctuate. So if we have new students that come on board, which does happen, we will purchase additional vouchers for those students. So the recommendation this evening to purchase vouchers from Kaleidoscope Learning is based on our FY23 expenditures. This is not a lump sum purchase, but allows us to purchase vouchers up to a designated amount. The funds are only encumbered as needed. This means we have a student that is enrolled in the applicable course, in the applicable credentialing program, and then we would purchase a voucher for that student. We do purchase retake vouchers, which is a less cost. If a student doesn't have success the first attempt, we would purchase a retake voucher, which is really probably 20% of the original cost, and we do that in order to maximize success and minimize the overall investment. Any questions?
Mr. Perry.
So in item 23.13, the cost that we have there not to exceed $250,000, is that the most it could be?
Correct.
With the retakes and all the things you just mentioned there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there other questions? Ms. Autry.
Thank you. So you mentioned how many industry credentials. So obviously our students get more than one. So what is the average amount of credentials, give or take, that our students earn?
So our ultimate goal is to have a 12-point plan in every pathway, and we're about 90% there. 45% of the graduating class from 2023 earned 12 points. Now, some credentials are at their face value 12 points, like the American Welding Society. That's a 12-point credential. Cosmetology, hairstyling is a 12-point credential. Physical therapy assistant. So that would be one credential, 12 points. The Rise Up, our 12-point plan for seniors that needed to graduate, is 2 credentials, retail industry fundamentals, and customer service and sales. So we want to really encourage that minimum baseline of 12 points, but we don't want to stop there. And that's one thing we're really working hard with our staff, is to not necessarily label it as the one-stop shop to help graduate, but as, once again, attesting to your knowledge and ability and setting you apart from, your competition in the workforce. So I do see students earning many, many different credentials in addition to Rise Up.
So the question I had, thank you. The question I had was from the very first part of the presentation. How many credentials did we give out last year? How many were awarded? 2,000?
Correct, 2,239 for the graduating class of 2023.
And that represents a year-over-year increase of approximately what?
I will have to get back to you with that information. It is definitely an increase.
It's definitely an increase.
We were about 1,700, I think, is the number around there the year before. It's a big increase.
Yeah, so we've seen an increase each year, which is a positive. So thank you for that. Thank you for the work around that. The question I have, though, is how do we compare with other similar urban districts? And so I guess I'm trying to figure out what I benchmark that number against, right? So is 2,039 a good number? Is that a great number? I like to think it's a great number. But if I look at Cleveland, I look at Columbus or other districts, what are they giving out on a per pupil basis, right? So if I have 2,000 credentials divided by 20,000 students, it's 0.5 credentials per student, right? Is there a similar metric that exists with other urban districts? That is to say, are they providing, and there may be reasons why. So again, not jumping to conclusions, but there may be reasons why some districts offer more or less credentials. They may have student bodies that maybe gravitate more towards the college side, right, or entrepreneur, or maybe the military, right? And so maybe there's not as many being awarded, but just seeking to understand. And as we look at these kinds of numbers, what does good look like?
Right, and I don't think that it's from the state. I don't believe we receive any sort of comparative piece like that.
Yeah.
When the report cards come out and they publish their data finalized and come out in the fall here, we'll be able to glean what their credential attainment is and maybe run some calculations ourselves based on their graduation numbers.
Okay.
Okay, and see where we're at. I'm going to think we're doing pretty great.
I like to think so too. Yeah, absolutely. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you all for all that you guys are doing. And thank you, Nathan, for speaking with me earlier. I think some things that we want to consider too, Hall, is that those numbers that what you're asking is going to vary depending on the graduation size. Right. And so it's kind of almost, it's a crap shoot. I don't know if I can say that, but it's like a.
I think you can say crap. It's okay.
Because it's not, you wouldn't be comparing, because if you have a graduating, if you have small graduation classes, then it wouldn't be good data for the comparison, because it's not really an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, that's why you.
Credentialing.
Well, that's why you would normalize it to get the per pupil number. Which would account for that differential.
Right, but the attainment of the credential, but clarify it for me. The containment of what we're talking about here, we're talking about kids in cosmetology that's finishing with 12 units. You're getting that at your senior year.
Yeah.
And then you have seniors, Ms. Teka, please feel free. And then you have the seniors that's going, and they're required to take at least the two that Nathan had discussed. Like, they're required for that. We see it reflected on our state report card because we get points. It's incentivized at that point for the school. But if you say per pupil, if you're talking about 21,000 kids in addition, let's just say that's encompassing ninth grade who they're not going to have it. So I don't know how. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to be per pupil for the district, but only for those grade levels. And so the comparison would be, in my assertion, the graduating classes, and that's why I'm saying there's no way to properly leverage that amongst graduating class if you have a district that boasts a graduating class of 500.
Sure, right.
Learners. Is where my thought process
No.
is.
So this is good conversation, right? So let's unpack that a bit further, right? So if I have a district of 500 students that gives out 1,000 credentials versus a district that's 10,000 students that gives out 500,000 credentials, you're right, that's never going to be apples to apples. But what I want to know is I can boil that down to a unit that is per pupil. Right, so I take the number of credentials divided by the number of students, and I get a per pupil number. That's how you normalize mathematically for the differential in student population. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So certainly recognize the point raised by Ms. Jackson that it's not apples to apples if you haven't normalized it appropriately. So that's why my question really today was really around how do I evaluate whether or not 2,000 is good, and I think, and I'm not saying that that's the KPI to use, by the way, right? That's just me coming up with something at 7:45 on Monday, August 14th, whatever today is, right? But you all, with your expertise, may have other better KPIs and comparison stats that we can be looking at to evaluate whether or not we think 2,039 is good, or should it be 3,039? So that's all I was really getting at.
Yeah,
So.
no, completely understand, and I think, we've been looking at growth of the attainment and the systems and structures to make sure students are successful. Remember, last year was the first year we were under completely the new graduation requirements, and the state has wisely said that there's not one path to graduation, and kids can demonstrate their competencies in multiple ways, and a good 40% of our kids demonstrated their competency using their credentials in order to graduate. So that's another reason we saw another boost and increase. But,
So to that point, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, but you mentioned that 40% of the students use their credentials to bolster their graduation. So
that's the way they were demonstrating competency to the state.
Roger that. Thank you for that clarification. So another question we could look at here is how many students would not have graduated if they didn't have this opportunity during credentials to help them graduate, right? Would we see a graduation rate that was 65% and not 85%? So my point is that there are multiple ways of demonstrating the value of the credentials that go beyond my limited expertise, right? So again, seeking to understand and leverage the august knowledge of those who are sitting around me in the room.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that and do some side-by-side comparisons of other districts. Keeping in mind that we have a unique model here where all students have accessibility to pathways. We've always had CTE programming in the schools, but pre this model, it was only for select students who applied, had the right GPA, had the right interests. The College and Career Academy model made that accessible for all students, and so they've all had the opportunity to attain these credentials as well. So, with a graduating class of 1,500 students, and we had 2,700 credentials, that's almost 2 per kid that we could give you a number at right now. But that's, just think of it that way too, that a lot of those kids wouldn't have had that access had we not had this model set up for them.
Roger that. Okay. Dr. Marnoff.
I was just going to say, as far as the story goes and the narrative goes, it is easily complicated, and it's difficult to explain to a room full of people. It's difficult to explain sometimes to parents to unpack all of this data and all of these things. But one thing is abundantly clear to me, which is this is an important investment in our students. We talk a lot about things that we offer and free things. I talked all summer about our free camps, but none of that is actually free. These are all investments. These are all priorities, and we're demonstrating what is important to us and how we are helping our kids. And so I do wish that we could help devise and create a simplified version of this narrative so we could brag about the investment and the payoff of that investment.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think that's well said. And so when we invest, to add to that, when we invest in things, we typically ask about what is the return on the investment, right? So what are the KPIs and and other metrics, right, that we would use to determine what is this a good program, right? Because there's a lot of great stuff we do here, right? And I think so at times where the challenge is reporting out on KPIs that allow us to speak boldly with our chest that this is a good program, and this is why we can say this is a good program, because we've benchmarked it against X, Y, and Z in A, B, and C, and we know that we are in the 75th or 80th percentile as compared to our peer group, or it's an area of opportunity, and maybe we need to invest more or invest less resources in it, right? Mm-hmm. But as we approach the fiscal cliff that we know is coming, this is the level of rigor that we're going to have to, begin to apply in a more common way to everything that we're doing here in this school district, because this board has a responsibility to approve budgets, right? And so we have to be able to have a way to be informed about what is the value of program X, Y, or Z, right? Because we know that we can't do everything. So, but again, I think this was a fantastic presentation, and certainly appreciate Ms. Seabright, you and Nathan, because I'm not going to say your last name incorrectly. But we certainly appreciate you both as well presenting tonight, and look forward to just follow up. So.
Thank you. And
thank
I have one more.
Ms. Jackson's got something she wants to add.
Yeah.
This mine is very good, I promise.
Yeah.
But yes, the evaluation so that we can speak in plain language so the community, stakeholders and partners understand progress is happening is very important, because it's the same with state tests, right? Because it's just a glimpse. And because the state test, and I want to say this because I don't think people understand what the state test does, is it's looking for proficiency. And when you have students that's already low, gains could have happened. But because they're just looking for the 700 number proficiency, that kid could have been at limited at like a 500, a 425, and a school district or teachers could have taken a child that was at a 400, severely low, and that student could end up at a 425. That is growth. But if the people don't understand how to read the data and how assessments happen, then it seems like, oh my God, nothing is happening, when really growth is happening because we're trying to recover. And a question was posited earlier, how long does it take to recover? Well, we have studies that show 1 year of a bad instruction, lack thereof instruction could take multiple years to recover. So we have to be careful just to make sure, like Han said, that's why it's so important to tell the story and tell it plain and tell it clear. Because when we're dealing with standardized testing, funding of programming, and then people don't want to pass levies to fund programming because it seems as though districts are not properly performing, and teachers are doing incredible things. School buildings are doing incredible things to get small gains for students who are low. And no one is diving deep into the data because it's a quick soundbite or flash of, oh, they're performing horribly, without anyone saying, hey, this kid got gained. Yeah, this point slid, but as an educator, I know environment matters. What was the classroom structure? What was going on with that kid? Because it's one test. Mm-hmm. So when we're telling a story, we have to make sure that we have systems and things in place that tells the complete story, and that we don't hone in on the negative things. So I just wanted to, because when you said, I'm like, yeah, we have to evaluate, we have to clearly tell it and make it plain, especially in education, public education, when we're trying to get people to fund and to support that gains are happening and great teachers are doing great things, but you can't expect them to be miracle workers. Only God can do that, right? And so when they're trying to catch up, that's the thing that I just wanted to express. Thank you for that.
I just want to piggyback on what Ms. Jackson said. Yeah, because when you talk about anything and making progress, the new report card doesn't show where you make progress. The old report card that you had showed where you were making progress, and you can see on the report card where you're making progress. And we are, as you stated, Ms. Jackson, we do have to tell the story so people can understand that you had this kid who may have been on the lower level but made these gains, and these gains are basically significant for individuals in that category. And so that is really good to show they made improvement. We've heard people talk about, thing with I Promise, yeah, they're probably doing well, but it wasn't impact well. So we can say, here's where these kids were at one point in time, here's where they are, maybe year 1, year 2, but also explaining how when we had the pandemic, they were behind, and they probably got further behind, but they had made progress beforehand. So we got to make sure we tell the complete story and make sure it's plain. And I think all of us, since we're in here and you talk about education, I always tell you when you're teaching it plain and simple so everybody can understand, not give all the jargons and so forth, but make it plain and simple so every single person who is listening can understand. All right. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Yeah. Are there other comments or questions?
Okay. So just want to acknowledge that I had the opportunity to commune with our administrators, and at the House 330, and that was for the day when we got a chance to look at data, and we could really see a lot of the work that had been done to really move our district forward. And so that is a very key, important point to note, that growth is, we have to look at growth. And so we are really going to be asking for our teachers and for our administrators, for central office, to help push so that every scholar can grow at a minimum of 3 to 5%. If that happens, you're going to see schools move. Data will move. I also had a awesome time with our senior staff at the retreat. And as we are looking at the blueprint for excellence, which is going to be our strategic plan, that is going to address KPIs and data points that will show that we are moving in the right direction. And oftentimes, the hard work that teachers and administrators put into what they do each and every day, sometimes that is not told in the story. And so it is going to be essential for us to tell the story, and it's going to be told through our strategic plan that we're working on. And soon, hopefully, you will see it very soon. Also, I've had the opportunity to visit our church, several of our churches in the community, which is what I'm doing on Sundays. I'm going to church anyway, so I'm visiting while I'm going. And it has been a delight to meet the community and to engage with our faith-based leaders, and to just get to know who our community leaders are, and to get to see so many of our scholars who attend these churches every Sunday. And so I just want to say that it has been a wonderful almost 2.5 weeks, and I'm still smiling and still here. But it's due to the fact that I really have, I've inherited a really good group of colleagues, and we are really, I think, getting to know each other. I'm driving the train hard, but they are doing an exceptional job. So I'm very proud and pleased. Thank you. That completes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Next, we'll move to.
Ms. Seabright had.
Well, yes. I'm sorry. Was there a question?
I think there was a special announcement, and it was a surprise, and we missed it because it was a surprise.
Oh,
I don't think she was finished. Yeah, I don't think she was done.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. One last slide. Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Can we put the slide back up, please, Josh? Thank you. Well, thank you for the lively conversation tonight about the credentialing and all those pieces. I know, and the story to tell. I know we're graduating more kids now, better prepared than we have in probably 40 years. We were just talking with Mark, sort of slide barring there. Pre-academies, 86 credentials. So, I mean, just they're better prepared. We're graduating more. I believe we're going to hit 90% in our graduation rates here soon, which is going to be, I mean, amazing. So anyway.
You say 90%?
Soon, soon.
Yeah.
I believe in the next couple of years we can see it, which is, for a large urban, is almost unheard of. Yeah. I mean, amazing.
Well, we do aspire to be the #1 urban in the country, right? So let's,
Absolutely.
right?
That would
So-
get us closer.
Okay.
But my special announcement was because of people like this. Kent State University and this organization has not only renewed themselves as a name Academy partner at Firestone, and signed pathway partner agreements, but they are now the new sister university for both Bookdale CLC and Firestone CLC. Yay! Just as a reminder that the sister university concept in college and career academies is unique to APS, and it was because of the vested interest of our post-secondary partners that said, we want to do more than you're asking of us, let's do more. And so this idea was born, and they take on every academy in that building and support them with college access, making sure they have FAFSA, that they work with the families, they advise the schools on what's needed and keep them current. They work with the individual teachers and the different academies around supporting their needs. Over the course of this agreement, there's a whole list of things they would do. In addition to all the great stuff that Kent State's already doing, they just had the capacity to move further. We had hoped to do a big naming announcement in the spring, and then some leadership changes kind of got us waiting, and then we were pushing it off until September, and they said, nope, we want to go to board tonight. And so we got it to board tonight because they want to start school with those two places being their sister university and kicking off the school year, and they didn't want to wait any longer. I would love to be able to invite them back for a special board recognition here in the future, but I wanted to make sure that you saw that was pretty exciting that it finally got to your approval tonight, and thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ebright. Any more surprises? Okay. So next we'll move to the President's report. My comments are really in response to some feedback we've gotten from some folks in the community regarding our I Promise presentation we did a couple weeks ago. Overall, it's been a lot of positive feedback, but it's really come to my attention that there is some mis and disinformation that's out there about what this board is attempting to do. So let me clarify for the record. This board is not seeking to target the I Promise school. This school board is not questioning resources being put into the I Promise school. We've talked about metric. There's been commentary that a school is more than metrics. We've said more recently, including at times this evening, that the I Promise school is more than metrics. But isn't any school more than just metrics? And hopefully that's a rhetorical question. I said earlier that we're not targeting the I Promise school, but I think it bears to point out that we have to evaluate any model. And this is a model that is singularly unique. There's not a school in the city of Akron that has a model like the I Promise school. There is not a school in this country that is doing what the I Promise school is attempting to do. That is how unique the model is. It's also a model that has engendered a great deal of curiosity, both nationally and locally. I can recall a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, attending I think it was called the LeBron James Huddle. It was a conference, I think, that was held at Tangier, now House 330. That was a great conference. So there were people that were here from across the country seeking to understand what the I Promise school was trying to do, trying to understand the model, trying to understand the resources, trying to understand the financial model of it. So when you have a model like that, naturally, as I said earlier, it engenders a great deal of curiosity in the community, the country, and this school board. As I pointed out several weeks ago when we had that presentation, that was the first time in my 4 years on the board that I've seen any presentations showing me any data about the I Promise school. 4 years. First time in 4 years. Part of the reason why that request was made to see data was because, as I have said already 3 times tonight, there's a great deal of curiosity about the I Promise School. We're in year 5, we're in year 6, how are we doing? You're a school board president. They ask me that question, I say, I don't know, because I haven't seen any data come out of the school in 4 years. And that's not me attempting to be negative, it's just me being truthful and honest that I have not seen data in 4 years. So when you evaluate a model that we're saying is singularly unique, perhaps in the universe, there are multiple ways to evaluate a model. A common way of evaluating a model is comparison. Which brings me to my next point. One of the things that's been pointed out to me multiple times is that they said, Dr. Hall, the students at the I Promise School, you don't know what they're going through. The kids that are there, they have circumstances and backgrounds that are just truly, truly challenging. And what I say to that is, I agree with you, but there are unlimited spots in the I Promise School. Take about 100 kids a year. There are approximately 500 kids at each grade level that have a similar profile. Now, those kids don't get in because there are limited spots. So when you're seeking to evaluate a model that is singularly unique, you start looking at, well, how are the students doing at the I Promise School compared to the same exact kids who are going to other schools throughout the city of Akron? Let me say this again, the same exact kids. The profile is not unique at the I Promise School. What's unique is the model that every single kid in the class is challenged in how they're performing, 25% or below, which, as Mr. Liggedy pointed out 3 weeks ago, that equates to 2 years behind in grade level. But those same students, those same kids with tough backgrounds are going to other schools in Akron too. So as we seek to evaluate a singularly unique model, a very elementary way of beginning that process is comparing. Well, how are the students doing at the I Promise School compared to the same exact kids at other schools in Akron, like Robinson and Mickey Bright and Helen Arnold, where there are folks there who are busting their tails too, working their hearts out for their kids, just like at the I Promise School. So what we saw several weeks ago was the beginning of that, and we have another presentation on tap for the next board meeting. So what this board is seeking to do is to understand and evaluate. How are we doing in comparison? So yes, there is growth data that is positive, but we also have to look at what is the growth data at the other schools, because that's fair. That's fair. So this school board is seeking to understand how effective a model is. We brought up COVID multiple times. Well, the kids at the other schools, Mickey Bright, Robinson, did they not have COVID at those schools too?
Mr. President,
Yeah.
you don't have to raise your
Reverend Pastor Harrison?
You go
Pastor
from
Harrison?
K to 2, and you do that comparison, but you do not have to raise your voice.
Pastor Harrison?
Scold us. You do what
Pastor
you want
Harrison,
to do.
can you,
I know what my name is, but you don't have to raise your
you're out of order, sir. You're out of order, sir.
Mr. President. We're all
Would you like to stay, Pastor Harrison, or should we have you removed from the meeting?
You have to remove from me. You got security here. Have you removed from me?
Can I finish? Can I finish, please?
I'll leave, sir.
Thank
You
you.
don't have to raise your voice.
Thank
You
you.
don't have to scold.
Nobody is scolding. Thank you, sir.
You don't have to raise your voice, Mr. President.
Thank you, Pastor Harrison. So, as I was saying, we are seeking to evaluate, and you have to do that through comparison. So we talk about COVID. The kids at Mickey Bright and Robinson and Helen Arnold, those kids suffered through COVID too. So we're not seeking to cast aspersions or to cast any particular school in a negative light. But when you have a model that is so unique, it is only the responsible thing to do to evaluate it, which is what this board is attempting to do. So that concludes my report. Treasurer's report.
We have June reconciled. We're closing and reconciling July. We'll do that each month. You'll begin to get those financial reports. And why those are important is it keeps us in line with knowing how that's impacting our 5-year forecast and how we know if we're on track or moving in one direction or another. So at the next board meeting, you will begin to receive those monthly reports, which are you'll get reconciliation from June and July, and then you'll continue to get those monthly. And then in September, because of our need to move faster for the COPS issuance, we need an updated 5-year forecast. So I'll be also asking you to approve a 5-year forecast a little sooner than normal, which will come in September. It doesn't mean as we get more data, we can't change it before our November submission, but we need a board-approved 5-year forecast in order to go to Standard & Poor and obtain a credit rating.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, we'll proceed to committee reports. Legal.
No report.
Okay. Next, we'll move to finance.
We will be meeting this upcoming Monday, so no report as of right now.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Next, we'll move to instructional policy. Okay, so we will pass instructional policy. Finally, we'll conclude with equity.
No report.
Okay. Seeing as there's no unfinished business or new business, we will proceed to item 31.1. I'll need a motion to recess into executive session pursuant to ORC 121.22G1 for the purpose of considering the employment and/or compensation of a public employee or official of the school district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Autry, seconded by Dr. Molnar. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander, we're voting to recess into executive session.
Yes.
Mrs. Autry?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We stand in recess at 8:10 p.m. Thank you.